The airlock hissed as Mira Hale stepped aboard the veiled Horizon, her boots magnetizing to the deck plating with satisfying clicks. She'd been assigned as the human liaison to the Kethri delegation, a role that sounded prestigious until she learned it meant babysitting a diplomatic envoy and their inexplicably enthusiastic cub through 3 solar systems. "Welcome, Ambassador Hale," chirped a translator box mounted near the corridor entrance. Behind it stood Envoy Sulrith, a Kethri adult whose silver-furred body rippled with bioluminescent patterns of formal greeting. "We are honored by Earth's." A blur of copper fur shot past the envoy's legs. "Tavi." No. The cub was already at Mira's feet, his 6 eyes wide with wonder, his prehensile tail coiled and vibrating with excitement. He barely reached her knee. Tavi's species had evolved on a low-gravity moon, and their young moved with the frantic energy of creatures who'd learned that hesitation meant falling into the void. "Human, human, I help, I help." The translator struggled with his rapid chirps. Mira smiled despite herself. "Hello, Tavi." She'd read the briefing files. The Kethri were an ancient civilization, cautious and deliberate. They'd watched humanity's explosive expansion into the stars with what the diplomatic corps called concerned interest. This meeting was supposed to demonstrate that humans could be patient, methodical partners. Then why did they bring a cub? "Tavi is an observer," Sulrith explained, their patterns shifting to embarrassment orange. "He wished to see a human. We could not refuse." "It's fine," Mira said, though she suspected it was anything but fine. The problems began immediately. Mira reached for the door to the conference room. Before her fingers brushed the panel, Tavi's tail whipped out, its tip morphing into a dexterous appendage that slapped the access button with surgical precision. The door slid open. "I help," Tavi announced, bouncing on his 4 legs. "Thank you," Mira said carefully. It happened again at the beverage station. Mira moved toward the dispenser. Tavi's tail was faster, selecting water, room temperature, 250 milliliters, before she could speak. "I help." "Yes, you helped." By the 3rd hour, Mira couldn't lift a data pad, adjust a chair, or reach for a stylus without Tavi intercepting. His tail moved with precognitive speed, reading her body language, anticipating her needs before she'd fully formed the intention. Sulrith's patterns had gone shame purple. "Ambassador, I apologize. Tavi has become fixated." "It's all right," Mira lied, but it wasn't. She'd begun second-guessing every movement. Should she reach for that document? Would Tavi launch himself across the table? The cub watched her with unblinking intensity, his tail coiled and ready, thrumming with the desperate need to be useful. The breakthrough came during the 5th session, when Mira dropped her stylus. It clattered to the deck and stayed there. She blinked. Looked down. The stylus rolled slightly in the simulated gravity. Tavi sat 3 meters away, his tail twitching, his body trembling with restraint. He was not helping. "Tavi?" Mira asked softly. I watch. I learn." His translator crackled. "Humans do things. Slow things. I watch." Sulreth's patterns flickered surprise white. "He has never. Cubs do not exhibit such restraint." Mira bent down slowly, picked up the stylus, and met Tavi's eyes. All 6 of them were locked on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You're learning how I move," she said. "Yes, yes." Tavi's tail wagged violently. "Humans move with purpose. Not survival, not fear. Purpose. Even small things, even picking up stick thing." She understood then. The Kethri had evolved in an environment where hesitation meant death. Every action was reactive, immediate, desperate. But humans from Earth's forgiving gravity and thick atmosphere, had learned to move with intention, to plan, to wait. "On my world," Mira said, sitting cross-legged on the deck, "we have a saying. Measure twice, cut once." Tavi crept closer. "Measure? It means to think before acting, to be deliberate. But doors must open. Things must be done. How do humans survive being so slow?" Mira laughed, a genuine sound that made Sulrith's patterns ripple confusion. We don't see it as slow. We see it as... She stood and walked to the conference room door. This time, she moved with exaggerated slowness, letting her hand drift toward the panel with theatrical deliberation. Tavi watched, transfixed. Her finger touched the button. The door opened. "I did it," Mira said. "On purpose. At the exact moment I chose." Tavi's entire body quivered. "Teach me?" The remaining sessions transformed. Tavi no longer intercepted every action. Instead, he'd watch, his tail mimicking her movements, a half-second behind learning the rhythm of purposeful motion. Sometimes he'd still dart ahead, his instincts overwhelming his attempts at restraint. But he'd catch himself and freeze, looking to Mira for guidance. "Better," she'd say, "but try waiting until I've started moving." On the final day, as Mira packed her belongings, she reached for the cabin door. Her hand extended. The panel loomed before her. Tavi sat 5 meters away, vibrating with restrained energy. Her fingers were centimeters from the button when his tail flicked out and stopped. Hovering, waiting. Mira smiled and nodded. Together, they pressed the button. Her finger and his tail tip synchronized perfectly. The door opened. "We help," Tavi said quietly. Solrith approached, their patterns displaying something Mira had never seen before, a complex weave of respect and wonder. "You have taught a Kethri cub to wait. Our philosophers have attempted this for generations." "How?" Mira knelt beside Tavi, who nuzzled against her hand. "I didn't teach him to wait. I taught him that humans see helping differently. It's not about being first. It's about being there when someone needs you." As the veiled horizon powered down its drives in Earth orbit, Mira watched Tavi's family prepare to disembark. The cub stood at the airlock, staring at the door release, his tail twitching with barely contained enthusiasm. An elderly Kethri approached one Mira didn't recognize. They carried a cane, moved slowly, their patterns dimmed with age. Tavi's tail coiled. Ready. Eager, but he waited. The elder reached for the door panel, their movements shaky. At the last moment, when their strength wavered, Tavi's tail extended not to intercept, but to steady, to support. Together, they opened the door. Solreth's patterns blazed with pride gold. "Perhaps," they said to Mira, "humans and Kethri are not so different after all. We simply needed to learn each other's rhythm." As Mira watched Tavi guide the elder through the airlock, his tail wrapped gently around their arm, she understood why the delegation had brought a cub. Sometimes, the future doesn't need diplomats. It needs teachers, and students willing to wait.